The morning sun rose over New Haven like it did every day. The sky turned pink and orange over the farming fields that stretched for miles. Children ran through the streets laughing and chasing each other before school started. The smell of fresh bread came from the bakery on Main Street. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the small orbital station above the planet. She sipped her coffee and watched the peaceful world below. New Haven was home to 340,000 people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, and families who wanted a quiet life away from the crowded cities of Earth. There were no soldiers here, no weapons, no warships. The Galactic Accord promised that civilian colonies were safe. No one would dare attack defenseless people. Sarah smiled as she watched a school transport fly toward the education center. Her own daughter was down there, probably sitting in math class right now. She checked her screens. Everything was normal. A few cargo ships coming and going. A tourist vessel from the Ventari species leaving orbit. Just another peaceful day. Then the alarm screamed. Sarah's coffee cup fell from her hand. 12 massive shapes dropped out of faster-than-light travel right above the planet. Warships, big ones. She had never seen ships like these before. They were dark and covered in sharp angles. Her computer identified them as Corinthian Dominion vessels. "What are they doing here?" Sarah whispered. Her hands shook as she reached for the communication panel. Before she could send a message, every system went dead. The Corinthians were jamming all signals. Nothing could get in or out. The first warship fired. A bright blue beam of energy struck the orbital station. Sarah was thrown against the wall. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed everywhere. She dragged herself to the emergency beacon. Her fingers flew over the controls. She had to warn someone. Had to tell Earth what was happening. Another blast hit the station. The wall exploded. Air rushed out into space. Sarah grabbed the edge of a console, her legs floating as the gravity failed. She punched the final button on the beacon with her last strength. A small signal burst out into space before everything went dark. Down on New Haven, people looked up at the sky. They saw the flashes of light. They didn't understand what they were seeing. Not yet. Then the bombardment began. Blue energy beams rained down from the sky. They hit the cities first. Buildings exploded into fire and dust. The school where Sarah's daughter sat vanished in a ball of flame. The hospital, the market, the residential areas. Everything burned. People ran. They screamed. They tried to find shelter. Parents grabbed their children. The elderly fell and couldn't get up. The ships above didn't care. They fired again and again. Precision strikes on every population center. Marcus Wells was working in the deep mining tunnels when it started. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. He grabbed his radio but heard only static. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He ran toward the surface elevator, but his supervisor stopped him. "Don't go up there," the older man said, his face pale. "Look at the cameras." Marcus stared at the security feed. The city was gone. Just smoke and fire. His house, his wife. His little girl Emma, who was only 6 years old. He fell to his knees. "Get everyone into the deep tunnels," the supervisor ordered. Now, 200 miners and maintenance workers fled into the deepest parts of the mining complex. They sealed the doors behind them. Above them, the massacre continued. Corinthian ground forces landed in dropships. The aliens were tall, covered in scales, with razor-sharp claws and cold eyes. They moved through the ruins searching for survivors. When they found people hiding in basements or shelters, they killed them. No mercy, no prisoners. A Corinthian commander stood in the smoking remains of the colony's central square. Bodies lay everywhere. He clicked his jaw in what his species considered laughter. "Humans," he said to his second-in-command. "The galaxy said they were dangerous. They look like weak prey to me. Should we search for more survivors?" The other Corinthian asked. "No need. Nothing could survive this. We'll report back that we found this colony abandoned. The Galactic Council won't question it. Humans are too weak to fight back anyway." The Corinthian fleet left after 6 hours. They disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind only death and silence. In the deep tunnels, Marcus Wells sat in the dark. Around him, 200 people cried. Some were injured. All were in shock. They had no food, little water, no way to call for help. Emma's favorite toy, a small stuffed rabbit, was still in Marcus's pocket. He had grabbed it that morning, planning to return it to her after work. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Emma loved that rabbit. She slept with it every night. She would never sleep again. An engineer named Sarah Park checked the tunnel's communication equipment. "The jamming is gone," she said quietly. "But I can't reach anyone. All the relay stations are destroyed." "There's one chance," Marcus said. His voice was empty, hollow. "The old subspace beacon. It's in storage. It's ancient technology, barely works, but it might reach the automated relay station near the asteroid belt." They found the beacon. It took Marcus 3 hours to get it working. His hands kept slipping. His vision blurred with tears. But finally, the small device powered up. Marcus spoke into the microphone. His voice cracked. "This is New Haven Colony. We were attacked. Corinthian ships. They killed everyone. Almost everyone, please. If anyone can hear this. They're all gone. Help us, please." He pressed send. The beacon transmitted the message in a burst, then died. Its power cell was empty. "Did it work?" someone asked. "I don't know," Marcus said. He pulled Emma's rabbit from his pocket and held it against his chest. "I don't know." Above them, New Haven burned. The beautiful farming world was now a graveyard. 340,000 people were dead. The Corinthian Dominion had broken the most sacred law in the galaxy. They had attacked defenseless civilians, but the Corinthians didn't know one important thing about humans. They thought humans were weak. Prey animals. Easy targets. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the cold void of space, Marcus's desperate message traveled through the dark. It bounced off an automated relay station, then another, and another, moving faster than light, racing across the emptiness, carrying its terrible news toward home, toward Earth, toward a species that protected its own. Admiral James Kovac was drinking his morning tea when the world changed. He sat in his office at United Terran Command headquarters in Geneva, reading reports about supply chains and training schedules. Boring work, but necessary. Earth had been at peace for 12 years. The galaxy seemed stable. His communication panel beeped. An urgent message from the Deep Space Monitoring Division. Kovac opened it, expecting another false alarm. Instead, he read the words 3 times before they made sense. New Haven. Attacked. Everyone. Gone. The message was broken, unclear. The signal was weak. But the automated relay station had picked it up and sent it straight to command. Kovac's hand tightened around his teacup. This had to be a mistake. No one attacked civilian colonies. The Galactic Accords laws protected them. Every species in the galaxy agreed. Civilian colonies were off limits. He called his intelligence officer. "Get me everything we have on New Haven, right now." Within minutes, his screen filled with information. New Haven Colony. Population 340,000. No military presence. Agricultural world. Last communication was 2 days ago. Everything routine and normal. Kovacs tried to raise the colony on the FTL communication system. Nothing. Dead silence. He tried the orbital station. Nothing. Every relay satellite near New Haven was not responding. "Sir, we have a problem," his intelligence officer said. "I just checked the automated monitoring systems. New Haven's energy signature is wrong." "Way wrong." "What do you mean?" "The power output from the colony dropped to almost 0 about 2 days ago. At the exact time that message was sent. Something happened there." Kovac stood up. His teacup fell to the floor and shattered. He didn't notice. "Wake up the Terran Council. Emergency session, now, and get me Captain Rodriguez. Tell her to prep the Wraith for immediate launch." The Wraith was Earth's newest stealth reconnaissance ship. It could slip through space without being detected. If something bad happened at New Haven, the Wraith would find out. The Terran Council met in the emergency chamber. 30 representatives from Earth's unified government. They watched as Kovac explained the situation. "This can't be right," one council member said. "The Galactic Accord protects civilian worlds. No species would dare break that law." "Then where is New Haven?" Kovac asked. "Why can't we contact them? Why did we receive a distress signal?" "Send the Wraith," the council decided. "Find out what happened. But don't jump to conclusions. This could be a technical failure. A natural disaster." Deep in his gut, Kovac knew it was worse than that. Captain Elena Rodriguez pushed her ship to maximum speed. The Wraith crossed the distance to New Haven in 4 days instead of the usual week. When they dropped out of FTL travel at the edge of the system, Rodriguez felt her blood turn cold. "Sensors are picking up debris," her tactical officer said. "Lots of it. Orbital station is gone. Satellites are destroyed." Rodriguez moved the Wraith closer, staying hidden with their stealth technology. Through the ship's powerful telescopes, they could see New Haven. The cities were ruins. Smoke still rose from some areas. Entire sections of the planet's surface were burned and scarred. Rodriguez had seen battle damage before. This was systematic destruction. Someone had deliberately tried to kill everything on that planet. Scan for weapon signatures, she ordered. Got something, Captain. Energy weapons, high-powered plasma cannons, and the radiation signature matches. Corinthian Dominion technology. Rodriguez closed her eyes. The Corinthians, an aggressive species from the other side of known space. They'd been pushing at borders, testing limits, but to attack a civilian colony? That was insane. Life signs? She asked, not wanting to hear the answer. Scanning. Wait, I'm getting something. Deep underground. Very faint. Maybe 200 people, Captain. Survivors. Rodriguez landed the Wraith near the mining tunnels. She and her security team found the sealed entrance and cut through. Inside, they found 200 terrified, starving people. They had been trapped in the dark for 5 days. Marcus Wells stumbled forward when the doors opened. He held a small stuffed rabbit in his hands. His eyes were empty. They came without warning, he told Rodriguez. They killed everyone, my wife, my daughter. Everyone. They just laughed. I heard them laughing. Rodriguez recorded everything. Every testimony. Every detail. Her crew documented the destruction. Thousands of photos. Video footage of the ruins. Evidence of Corinthian weapons. Bodies still lying in the streets. When the Wraith returned to Earth, Rodriguez delivered her report to Admiral Kovac. He watched the footage in silence. 340,000 civilians dead, murdered. While the galaxy's laws did nothing, the Council released the information to the public. Earth saw the images. The whole planet stopped. People watched in horror as the news showed New Haven's destruction. They saw the bodies, the ruined cities, the crying survivors. Rage swept across Earth like wildfire. Protests filled every major city. Millions of people demanded action. The Galactic Council sent Earth a message expressing deep concern and promising diplomatic pressure on the Corinthian Dominion. Ambassador Liu Wen stood before the Galactic Council in person. The chamber was full of alien species, all looking uncomfortable. You offer us condolences, Liu said. Her voice was ice. You promised diplomacy, but where was your protection when our people died? Where was the sacred Galactic Accord? You have shown us that your laws only protect those you deem important. Humans apparently are not important enough. An alien council member tried to speak. We will impose sanctions. Keep your sanctions, Liu interrupted. Earth will handle this ourselves. She walked out. Behind her, she heard the council chamber erupt in shocked conversation. They thought humans would accept diplomatic solutions. They were wrong. Earth formally withdrew from the Galactic Accord's military limitation treaties. The galaxy had forced humanity to keep their fleet small, to rely on collective security. That collective security had failed. Admiral Kovac stood in the war room beneath Geneva. Around him stood the commanders of Earth's secret defense program. For 20 years, humanity had been building weapons in the dark, getting ready for the day when the galaxy showed its true face. They called it the Terra Defense Initiative, a fleet of warships hidden in the asteroid belt. Experimental weapons that pushed the limits of physics, the best-trained crews in human space. Kovac looked at the tactical display. 100 warships. Enough firepower to burn a world, all hidden, waiting for this exact moment. Activate Operation Righteous Fury, Kovac ordered. Target Corinthian home system. Mission, make them pay. The fleet commanders nodded. No one smiled. This wasn't about glory. This was about justice. In shipyards hidden among the asteroids, the fleet came to life. Crews reported to their stations. Weapons were loaded. Engines powered up. 100 ships, all painted black, all carrying humanity's anger. Admiral Kovac boarded the flagship, the TFS Indomitable. He stood on the bridge and looked at his officers. Young men and women who had joined the fleet to protect humanity. Now they would show the galaxy what that meant. Send no warnings, Kovac said. Make no demands. We're not going there to talk. We're going there to end this. The Corinthians thought humans were weak. Pray. Let's teach them the truth. The fleet began to move, 100 ships slipping out of the asteroid belt. They aligned themselves toward Corinthian space. Engines flared bright, pushing them faster and faster. On Earth, Marcus Wells watched the ships depart on the news. He held Emma's rabbit tight. His hands finally stopped shaking. Someone was going to make them pay. Someone was going to avenge his little girl. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. They disappeared into the darkness between stars, silent, deadly, coming for revenge. The galaxy had made a mistake. They thought humans would accept their laws, accept diplomatic solutions, accept the death of their people. They were about to learn that humanity protected its own. Always. The fleet traveled through the darkness between stars in complete silence. No communication with Earth, no messages sent to anyone. Admiral Kovac wanted total surprise. The Corinthians would not see them coming until it was too late. Kovac walked through the corridors of the Indomitable every day. He saw his crew at their stations. Young faces, determined faces, angry faces. Every person on these ships knew what happened at New Haven. They had seen the footage. Read the names of the dead. This wasn't just another mission. This was personal. In the mess hall, groups of soldiers and crew members sat together. They didn't talk much. When they did, it was always about the same thing. My cousin was at New Haven, a young engineer said quietly. She was a teacher, 26 years old. I had friends there, another person said. Good people. They just wanted to grow food and raise their kids. Kovac stopped to listen. He didn't interrupt. These people needed to remember why they were here. Needed to feel the anger that would keep them sharp when the fighting started. Commander Maria Santos ran fighter pilot drills in the simulation room 16 hours a day. She pushed her pilots hard, made them practice the attack run again and again until they could do it in their sleep. Her brother had been at New Haven. He worked at the hospital that was now just a crater in the ground. Again, she told her pilots after they completed another simulation. Faster this time. When we hit them perfect. No mistakes, no mercy. The pilots climbed back into their simulation pods. They trusted Santos. She was the best fighter pilot in the fleet. If she said they needed to be perfect, they would be perfect. In the medical bay, Dr. Yuki Tanaka prepared for casualties. She organized supplies, checked equipment, trained her medical team. She hoped she wouldn't need any of it. But she'd been in combat before. She knew what war looked like. Will there be many wounded? A young nurse asked her. I don't know, Tanaka said honestly. We've never fought the Corinthians before. We don't know how good they are. We just know they're willing to kill civilians. That makes them dangerous. Deep in the ship's intelligence section, Marcus Wells stared at screens filled with Corinthian military data. Kovac had asked him to join the mission. Marcus almost said no. He was just an engineer. But then he thought about Emma. About making the people who killed her face justice. So he came. Now he studied Corinthian fleet formations, their weapon ranges, their tactics. He wanted to know everything about them, wanted to find every weakness, every mistake they might make. Their shields are strong at the front, he told Kovac during a briefing, but weaker on the sides and rear, and they keep their ships close together, too close. If we can break their formation, they'll get in each other's way. Kovac nodded. Good work. Keep analyzing. I want to know these ships better than their own crews do. Every day, the War Council met in the command center. Kovac and his senior officers gathered around a holographic display of the Corinthian home system. They planned every detail of the attack. Every ship had a specific target. Every pilot knew their exact attack vector. We'll drop out of FTL here, Kovac pointed to a spot in the hologram. Right on top of their third fleet. They'll be in orbit around their main world. Probably with shields down, weapons cold. They think they're safe at home. What if they have patrol ships that detect us coming? An officer asked. They won't, Kovac said. Our stealth technology is better than anything they have. We'll be on top of them before they know we're in the system. What about civilian casualties? Another officer asked. Their homeworld will be right there. Kovac's face hardened. We target only military installations. Only warships. We're not like them. We don't kill defenseless people. But their fleet? Their military command? Those are legitimate targets, and we're going to destroy them. At night, when most of the crew slept, young pilot Jackson Reed sat in his bunk and wrote a letter on his data pad. He was 22 years old. This would be his first real combat. Maybe his last. Dear Mom and Dad, he typed. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it back. I want you to know I'm not scared. Well, maybe a little scared, but mostly I'm angry. angry about what happened to all those people at New Haven. They deserve justice. We all do. I'm proud to be part of this fleet. Proud to serve with these people. Whatever happens, we did the right thing. I love you both, Jackson. He saved the letter and set it to send automatically if he didn't return. Then he lay down and tried to sleep. Tomorrow they would run another combat simulation. He needed to be sharp. The reconnaissance drones traveled ahead of the fleet, invisible and silent. They slipped into the Corinthian home system and sent back real-time data. Images of the Third Fleet sitting peacefully in orbit. 12 massive warships, the same ones that attacked New Haven. They floated above the Corinthian homeworld with their weapons powered down, arrogant, comfortable, safe, or so they thought. The intelligence reports showed something that made Kovach's blood boil. The Corinthians were celebrating. They had reported to the Galactic Council that New Haven was abandoned when they arrived. A complete lie, and the Council accepted it without question. The Corinthians were throwing parties, giving medals to the officers who led the attack. War leader Thrak, the Corinthian commander who ordered the massacre, received the highest honor his species could give. The images showed him standing proudly while other Corinthians praised him for his tactical brilliance in claiming new territory. Kovach showed the images to his senior staff. No one spoke. The rage in the room was thick enough to cut. 3 days, Kovach said quietly. In 3 days, Thrak is going to learn what tactical brilliance really looks like. The final briefing happened 12 hours before the attack. Every crew member attended via video link. Thousands of faces filled Kovach's screen. He looked at each section of his fleet. The fighter pilots, the gunners, the engineers, the medical staff, the Marines who would board any disabled Corinthian ships. I'm not going to lie to you, Kovach said. What we're about to do is dangerous. Some of us might not come home. But we're doing this for the right reasons. 340,000 civilians died at New Haven. The galaxy did nothing. The Galactic Council did nothing. So we're going to do something. He paused, making sure everyone could see his face. We're not doing this for glory. We're not doing this to conquer or to steal. We're doing this because it's right. Because those people at New Haven deserve justice. Because we need to show the galaxy that humans protect their own. Always. No matter what. The crew watched in silence. When we drop into that system, we're going to hit them with everything we have. Fast, hard, perfect. We're going to show them what happens when you hurt defenseless people. We're going to show them that humans are not prey, not victims. We're the species that fights back. Kovach stood straighter. For New Haven. For the 340,000. For every human who ever thought the galaxy would protect them. Let's go teach these bastards a lesson they'll never forget. The crew erupted in a roar that echoed through every ship. Oh, cheers. Just a deep, angry sound of determination. The fleet reached the edge of Corinthian space. The ships formed up in perfect attack formation. Every weapon was loaded. Every shield was ready. Every pilot sat in their cockpit with hands on the controls. Kovach sat in the command chair of the Indomitable. His hands were steady. His mind was clear. He thought about Sarah Chen, who died trying to warn Earth. About Marcus Wells, who lost everything. About 340,000 people who just wanted to live peaceful lives. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer said. Kovach nodded. Engage stealth systems. Prepare for FTL jump. Target coordinates locked? Yes, sir. We'll drop right on top of them. Good. Kovach looked at his bridge crew. Execute Operation Righteous Fury. Show them what Earth does to monsters. The fleet jumped. 100 warships disappeared into faster-than-light travel for the final time. When they emerged, the Corinthian Third Fleet would be waiting, and humanity would deliver justice with fire and steel. The Corinthian Third Fleet floated peacefully in orbit above their homeworld. 12 massive warships, their shields down, weapons on standby. The crews were relaxed. Many were sleeping. Some were in their mess halls eating and celebrating their recent victory at New Haven. War leader Thrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the planet below. He felt proud. The High Command had praised him. His name would be remembered as the leader who expanded Corinthian territory. Those humans had been so easy to kill, weak prey just like he thought. Then space itself seemed to tear open. 100 human warships dropped out of FTL travel directly above the Corinthian fleet. The surprise was total, complete. The Corinthians didn't even have time to raise shields. Admiral Kovach's voice boomed across all frequencies. Every Corinthian ship heard it. Every communication system on the planet below picked it up. 3 words, cold and final. For New Haven. The Indomitable fired first. A kinetic round launched from its rail cannon at 30% the speed of light. The projectile hit Thrax's flagship before anyone could react. It punched through the unshielded hull like it was paper. The round went straight through the ship from top to bottom. Secondary explosions rippled along the Corinthian vessel. Half the ship simply ceased to exist in a ball of fire. The rest of Earth's fleet opened fire at the same moment. The darkness of space lit up with weapons fire, kinetic rounds, plasma beams, missiles. All of it poured into the Corinthian fleet with devastating accuracy. A Corinthian warship to the left of the flagship tried to raise shields. It was too slow. 3 human ships targeted it at once. The wildfire missiles hit first. Plasma so hot it melted through the hull. Then the kinetic rounds finished it. The Corinthian ship broke apart in chunks. Scramble all fighters. Return fire! A Corinthian officer screamed into his communication system, but the human fighter wings were already launching. Commander Maria Santos led her squadron out of the Indomitable's hangar bay. 200 human fighters swept toward the Corinthian ships like angry hornets. Target their weapon systems, Santos ordered. I want them helpless. Her pilots obeyed with cold precision. They'd practiced this 1,000 times in simulation. Now they did it for real. Plasma cannons on the human fighters carved into Corinthian ships, destroying gun ports, missile tubes, and sensor arrays. A Corinthian fighter squadron finally launched to meet them. The Corinthian pilots were good, but Santos and her people were better. The human fighters moved faster, turned tighter, shot more accurately. Within minutes, half the Corinthian fighters were debris floating in space. On Thrax's dying flagship, the war leader pulled himself from the wreckage of his command chair. Blood ran down his scaled face. Around him, his bridge was in ruins. Bodies lay everywhere. Fires burned. He staggered to a working console and stared at the tactical display. Impossible. The human fleet was destroying his ships like they were made of glass. How did they have this kind of firepower? How did they find him? Humans were supposed to be weak. All ships, retreat! Thrax ordered. Jump to emergency coordinates. But 3 Corinthian ships were already destroyed. 4 more were heavily damaged and couldn't jump. The remaining 5 began powering up their FTL drives. It would take 60 seconds to charge. Kovach saw them trying to run. All ships target their engines. No one leaves. The human fleet concentrated fire on the Corinthian ships trying to escape. Kinetic rounds smashed into their engine sections. The ship's FTL drives overloaded and exploded. 1 Corinthian vessel tried to jump anyway. Its drive exploded mid-transition, tearing the ship into pieces across multiple dimensions. Ground-based weapon platforms on the Corinthian homeworld began firing up at the human fleet. Massive energy beams lanced toward the Earth ships. Kovach's tactical officer called out warnings. Taking fire from the surface, Admiral. Multiple targeting locks. Return fire, Kovach ordered. Precision strikes on military targets only. No civilian areas. The Indomitable's weapon systems locked onto the ground batteries. Not the cities. Not the residential zones. Only the military installations. The ship fired. Missiles streaked down through the atmosphere. Each one hit exactly where it was supposed to. Military bases exploded. Weapon platforms were vaporized. Not a single civilian building was touched. This was the difference between Earth and the Corinthians. Humans followed rules even in war, even when they were angry. Even when they wanted revenge. The space battle lasted 4 hours. 4 hours of brutal, one-sided combat. The Corinthian Third Fleet had never faced an enemy like this. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human shields. Their ships were too slow to avoid human fire. Their tactics fell apart under Earth's coordinated assault. One by one, the Corinthian warships died. The last one to fall was Thrax's flagship. It drifted in space, engines dead, weapons silent, life support failing. Human Marines in powered armor attached to its hull and cut their way inside. They found Thrax in what was left of his bridge. He was injured but alive. His scaled hands clutched a weapon, but he was too weak to use it. The Marines took it away and bound his claws. You prove nothing, Thrax hissed at them. You're just more vicious than we thought. Still pray. Just pray that bites back. The Marines said nothing. They dragged him to a shuttle and brought him up to the Indomitable. Kovach watched through the video link as they brought Thrax to a holding cell. The war leader was covered in blood and burns, but his eyes still showed defiance. "War leader Thrak," Kovac said, his voice as cold as deep space. "Do you know why you're still alive? You need me as a prisoner. For negotiations." "No." Kovac leaned closer to the screen. "You're alive because we're not like you. We don't kill helpless beings, not even ones who deserve it. You attacked New Haven. You killed 340,000 civilians. You murdered children, unarmed people who couldn't fight back. And you laughed about it." Thrak's eyes narrowed. "They were in the way of our expansion. Weak species die. That's how the galaxy works." "No," Kovac said. "That's how the galaxy used to work. You made a mistake, Thrak. You thought humans were weak because we value life, because we try to be peaceful. You confused kindness with weakness. Now you know the truth." "What truth?" "That humans are the species that protects its own. Always. You touched our people. You killed our civilians. And now your fleet is destroyed. Your military command is in ruins. And you're going to face trial for what you did." Thrak laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "The Galactic Council won't care. They'll protest your attack. They'll call you aggressors." "I don't care what the Council says," Kovac replied. "They did nothing when our people died. Now we've done something. Let them deal with it." On the tactical display, the battle was over. All 12 Corinthian warships were destroyed or captured. The Corinthian Military Command Center on the planet's surface was broadcasting surrender on all frequencies. "Sir, we're receiving multiple FTL signals," the communication officer reported. "The Galactic Council is demanding we cease hostilities immediately. They're threatening sanctions." "Ignore them," Kovac said. "We're not here for the Council's approval. We're here for justice." He looked at the damage reports. 2 human ships had taken minor damage from ground fire. 16 crew members wounded. 0 fatalities. In 4 hours, Earth's fleet had destroyed the entire force that massacred New Haven, and done it without losing a single person. Marcus Wells stood in the Indomitable's observation room, looking down at the Corinthian homeworld. He held Emma's stuffed rabbit in his hands. Tears ran down his face, but these were different tears than before. These were tears of release, of justice done. "Did we get them all?" he asked quietly. "Everyone who was at New Haven?" Commander Santos stood beside him. She'd just landed her fighter after the battle. "We got them all. Every ship. Every commander. They're going to pay for what they did." Marcus nodded slowly. "Good, my Emma can rest now." "They all can." Kovac addressed the fleet over the ship-wide communication system. His voice was tired but satisfied. "Attention all hands. Operation Righteous Fury is complete. The Corinthian Third Fleet has been destroyed. All responsible parties are in custody. We did what we came here to do. We showed the galaxy that humanity protects its own. That attacking our civilians comes with a price. Be proud of what you accomplished here today, not because we won a battle, but because we delivered justice when no one else would." He paused. "Now we take these prisoners home. We let them face trial. We show the galaxy that humans have honor even in war, even in revenge. We're not monsters. We're the good ones. Remember that." Throughout the fleet, the crew listened. They were exhausted. Some were injured. But they all felt the same thing. They had done something that mattered. Something right. The Corinthian government broadcast a surrender message. Their military forces stood down. They offered to negotiate. They begged Earth to show mercy. Kovac's response was simple. "Your surrender is noted. Now face justice. We're taking war leader Thrak and everyone involved in the New Haven massacre back to Earth for trial. Any attempt to interfere will be met with force. This is not a negotiation." The human fleet began its journey home. Behind them, Kryn Prime sat in shocked silence. Their third fleet was gone. Their military pride was shattered. And they had learned something the hard way. Don't target the defenseless. Earth is watching, and Earth does not forgive. 3 weeks after the battle, war leader Thrak stood in chains before an international tribunal on Earth. The courtroom was filled with judges from every nation on the planet. Behind them, screens showed the faces of the 200 survivors from New Haven. Marcus Wells sat in the front row, Emma's stuffed rabbit on his lap. The charges were read aloud: genocide, war crimes, mass murder of civilians, violation of the Galactic Accord. The evidence was overwhelming. Video footage from the Corinthian ships themselves, weapon signatures, testimony from the survivors. The Corinthians had even kept records of the attack, proud of what they'd done. Thrak stood silent as the evidence was presented. His defiant expression never changed. He didn't deny anything. Why would he? In his mind, he'd done nothing wrong. Humans were just prey, weak beings to be pushed aside. The lead judge looked at him with cold eyes. War Leader Thrak, you have been found guilty of all charges. Under Earth law and the laws of war recognized across the galaxy, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. Your assets and those of the Corinthian Dominion will be seized to pay reparations for the rebuilding of New Haven. You can't, Thrak started to protest. We can, the judge interrupted, and we will. Your government has already agreed to our terms. They have no choice. Their fleet is destroyed. Their military is broken. They will pay for what they did. Thrak's eyes widened. For the first time, fear showed on his scaled face. Life in a human prison. Never going home. Never seeing his own world again. This was real. The consequences were real. As guards led him away, Marcus Wells stood up. Thrak, he called out. The Corinthian stopped and looked at him. Marcus held up the stuffed rabbit. This was my daughter's. Her name was Emma. She was 6 years old. She loved to draw pictures and sing songs. You killed her. I want you to remember that. Every day in your cell, I want you to remember Emma and the 340,000 others you murdered. Thrak said nothing. What could he say? He was led away to his cell. He would live, but he would never be free again. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 100 species argued and shouted. Some demanded that Earth be punished for attacking the Corinthians. Others quietly admitted the Corinthians deserved what they got. A few species openly praised Earth's actions. Ambassador Lu Wen stood at the human podium, calm and composed. She waited for the noise to die down. When it didn't, she simply started talking. Her voice cut through the chaos. The Galactic Council wants to condemn Earth for our actions. You call us aggressors, warmongers, violators of peace. I want to remind you of something important. We didn't fire the first shot. The Corinthian Dominion attacked a defenseless civilian colony. They killed 340,000 unarmed people. They broke the most sacred law that this council claims to uphold. A council member tried to interrupt. Liu ignored them. Where was the council when New Haven burned? Where was the protection you promised? You offered us condolences, diplomatic pressure, sanctions that would take years to mean anything. Meanwhile, our people were dead and the Corinthians were celebrating. So yes, we took action. We enforced the laws you wouldn't enforce. We protected our people when you refused to. You destroyed an entire fleet, someone shouted. A fleet that massacred civilians. Liu shot back. A military force that committed genocide. We didn't attack civilian targets. We didn't kill innocents. We followed the rules of war that the Corinthians ignored. And we brought the responsible parties to justice. She looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. Earth is withdrawing from this council's military treaties. We will not limit our fleet anymore. We will not depend on your protection anymore. You've shown us what that protection is worth. But we're not declaring war on anyone. We're not threatening conquest. We're simply saying this. Leave our people alone and we'll leave you alone. Touch them and you'll face the consequences. Is that a threat? A council member demanded. It's a promise, Liu said. The galaxy needs to understand something about humans. We're patient. We're peaceful. We try diplomacy first, but we protect our own, always. The Corinthians learned this lesson the hard way. Don't make us teach it again. She walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council erupted in arguments. But she noticed something important. Several smaller species were watching her leave with expressions that looked like hope. Species that had been threatened by larger, aggressive empires. Species that the council never really protected. Within a week, 3 of those species sent formal requests to Earth. They wanted protection treaties, defense agreements. They'd seen what Earth did to the Corinthians, and they wanted that strength on their side. Earth's government considered the requests carefully. They accepted, not as conquerors or rulers, but as protectors. Human ships began patrolling the space around these allied worlds. A message to the galaxy. These people are under our protection now. At New Haven, construction crews worked day and night. The money from Corinthian reparations funded everything. New buildings rose from the ruins. New farms were planted. New schools built. Marcus Wells stood in the central square where a memorial was being built. A tall wall of black stone with every name carved into it. 340,000 names. He found Emma's name near the middle. His fingers traced the letters. We're calling the colony Remembrance now, a woman said beside him. It was Sarah Park, the engineer who had helped him send the distress signal. She'd survived the tunnels, too. The council voted last night. New Haven is gone, but we'll remember it. We'll remember everyone. That's good, Marcus said quietly. They should be remembered. Around them, new families were arriving. People willing to rebuild, to make this place live again. Earth had established a permanent military garrison on the planet. A full battalion of Marines, orbital defense platforms, and a squadron of warships. No colony would ever be defenseless again. Commander Maria Santos transferred to the garrison. She requested the posting personally. Her brother had died here. She wanted to protect this place now, to honor his memory. She stood on the new orbital station looking down at the world that was slowly healing. Think they'll ever try again? Her second-in-command asked. The Corinthians or anyone else? I doubt it, Santos said. Word has spread across the galaxy. Humans aren't the weak prey species everyone thought. We're the ones who fight back, the ones who don't forget. No one wants to be the next example. She was right. Across known space, aggressive empires quietly pulled back their expansion plans. Species that had been testing human borders suddenly found other directions to explore. The Corinthian Dominion became extremely cooperative with all human requests. In a military academy on Kryn Prime, young Corinthian cadets watched footage of the battle. They saw their mighty Third Fleet destroyed in 4 hours. They saw war leader Thrak dragged away in chains. It was required viewing now. Every Corinthian soldier had to watch it. The instructor, an old veteran with scars from the battle, spoke to the class. This is what happens when you confuse kindness with weakness. The humans tried peace. They followed the rules. They trusted the Galactic Council's protection. And when that failed them, they showed us what they really are. What are they? A young cadet asked. Apex predators, the instructor said. They're a species that evolved by surviving everything their world threw at them. Ice ages, predators, diseases, wars. They learned to work together, to protect their own, to fight back against anything that threatened them. We thought they were soft because they valued peace. We were wrong. They value peace because they know exactly how good they are at war. He pointed at the screen showing the burning wreckage of Corinthian ships. Remember this. Remember New Haven. Remember that humans don't start fights, but they always finish them. And if you ever encounter humans in space, you treat them with respect. You honor their boundaries. You protect their civilians. Because if you don't, this is what happens. The cadets watched in silence. The lesson was clear. Back on Earth, Admiral Kovac sat in his office reading reports. The fleet had returned home as heroes, but he didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired. Satisfied that justice was done, but tired. His communication panel beeped. A message from Terran Command. More species requesting defense treaties. More planets asking for Earth's protection. The galaxy had seen what humanity could do, and they wanted that strength on their side. Kovac approved the requests and sent them up to the Council. Earth's fleet was going to be busy. Not conquering. Not invading. Protecting. That's what humans did best. He looked at a photo on his desk. The memorial wall at Remembrance Colony. All those names. All those people who died because the galaxy's laws were empty promises. Never again, he thought. Never again. Captain Rodriguez, now promoted to Admiral, took command of the new defense initiative. Her job was to ensure every human colony had protection. Every outpost had ships nearby. Every civilian was safe. It's a big responsibility, she told her staff. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're defending the idea that civilians should be safe. That strong species can't just kill weak ones. That there are rules and those rules matter. And if someone breaks those rules? An officer asked. High Exarch Tormek stood before the massive viewing screen on his flagship, watching another world fall. The crystalline cities of the Veshtar homeworld crumbled under the plasma bombardment. Their ships burned in orbit like dying stars. It had taken only 6 days. 6 days. That was slower than usual. Tormek's 4 eyes narrowed with disappointment. The Veshtar had been strong, their technology almost matching Calvari standards. They had fought with courage and skill, but courage meant nothing against 12,000 warships. Skill could not overcome such numbers. Nothing could. Status report, Tormek commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. Victory is complete, High Exarch, his second officer replied. The Veshtar leadership has surrendered. Their military forces are destroyed. Total casualties on our side. 43 ships damaged, 7 destroyed. Tormek nodded. Acceptable losses. The Calvari Empire had perfected the art of conquest over 3 centuries. They never failed because they never gave their enemies a chance. Overwhelming force. Predictable tactics that worked every time. Psychological warfare through sheer inevitability. The Veshtar were the 847th civilization to fall. There would be many more. Across the galaxy, in a hidden station far from Calvari space, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. 27 species sent their representatives. All of them had been conquered before. Some had won their freedom through tribute. Others still paid the price of survival. Ambassador Quilin of the Hresh spoke first, his translator device converting his clicks and whistles into common language. The Calvari fleet has begun moving toward Sector 771. Intelligence suggests they have identified a new target. Murmurs filled the council chamber. Fear rippled through the assembled diplomats like waves on water. Sector 771? Ambassador Vreen asked, her scales shifting to a worried blue. There is nothing there worth conquering, just empty space and wait. Her eyes widened. The humans. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Everyone knew about the humans, a young species from a single world they called Earth. They had developed faster than light travel only 200 years ago. When the Galactic Council had offered them membership, the humans had refused. They wanted to remain isolated, they said. They needed time to grow as a civilization. The Council had respected their wishes. After all, humanity was small, insignificant. One world with a modest fleet of ships. They posed no threat to anyone. Should we warn them? Someone asked. What would be the point? Quillen responded sadly. The Calvari have never been stopped, never been slowed. The humans have perhaps 300 ships. The Calvari will send 10,000 or more. It will be over in days. The council sat in silence, each member remembering their own conquest. Each one knowing that another species was about to learn the same terrible lesson they had learned. Meanwhile, in Calvari High Command, Tormek received his new orders with satisfaction. His fleet had earned rest, but the Empire never rested. Already his ships were being restocked, repaired, and prepared for the next conquest. Sol System. Tormek read from his data tablet. Primary inhabited world designated Earth. Species classification, human. Technology level, early FTL capable. Estimated military strength, 300 to 400 vessels. Predicted conquest time, 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days. Tormek smiled. An easy victory after the challenge of the Veshtar. His officers deserved something simple. The intelligence report continued. Humans were a divided species. Their world split into many nations. They had only unified their space defense 40 years ago. They had no experience fighting wars beyond their own system. They had never faced an existential threat from the stars. They would break quickly, Tormek decided, perhaps even surrender without a fight once they saw the size of his fleet. The Calvari 7th Conquest Armada assembled over the next 3 weeks. 12,000 warships, supply vessels, troop carriers, support craft. It was a force that could darken the skies of any world. In the Sol system, humanity knew they were coming. Deep space monitoring stations had detected the Calvari fleet preparations. Long-range probes had tracked their movements. Earth's Defense Council met in Geneva, in the same chambers where humanity had ended its last global war 80 years before. Admiral Elena Chen stood at the podium, her gray uniform crisp and perfect. Behind her, a holographic display showed the approaching threat. 12,000 ships. The number seemed impossible. They expect us to surrender, Chen said quietly. Intelligence suggests the Calvari believe we'll give up when we see their fleet. They think we're like the others. Divided. Weak. Afraid. She paused, looking at each council member in turn. They don't know that we've been preparing for this day since we first learned about them. They don't know that every shipyard in our system has been building in secret for 80 years. They don't know that we've studied every single battle they've ever fought. Every tactic, every strategy, every weakness. The Chinese representative leaned forward. Can we win? We can make them regret coming here, Chen replied. Whether that counts as victory remains to be seen. But I promise you this. When the history of the Calvary Empire is written, they will remember Seoul. They will remember Earth. They will remember humanity. Orders went out across the solar system. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid belts and outer moons began moving into position. Every vessel in humanity's fleet received the same coordinates. Every captain received the same instructions. Hold the line. Whatever comes, hold the line. 340 ships gathered at the edge of the solar system, at the boundary where most FTL jumps would emerge. They arranged themselves in a formation that no other species had ever used. Dense, overlapping fields of fire, mutual support at every angle. A blockade. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UHSF Indomitable. Around her, 339 other ships held position. Waiting. Admiral, her communications officer said. Long-range sensors detect FTL signatures, multiple signatures, thousands of them. Here we go, Chen said calmly. All ships, battle ready, weapons hot, but no one fires until I give the order. No one breaks formation, no one runs. The FTL signatures grew stronger, closer. The Calvary were coming. Chen thought about Earth behind them. 7 billion people who had no idea how close they were to extinction. She thought about the Galactic Council watching from afar, expecting humanity to fall. She thought about the Calvary, who had never lost, never been stopped, never been challenged. Let them come, she whispered to herself. Let them see what humans do when we're pushed to the edge. Space rippled. 12,000 Calvary ships dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system and found 340 human ships waiting for them, blocking the stars. The war for humanity's survival had begun. Tormek stared at his displays, confusion flickering across his face. The human fleet was arranged in a pattern he had never seen before. 340 ships formed a dense wall across the most common entry vector into the inner system. They were not scattered. They were not fleeing to their homeworld. They were waiting. Analysis, Tormek demanded. His tactical officer studied the formation for several moments. Unknown configuration, High Exarch. It appears to be some form of defensive blockade, but the positioning is unusual. Maximum overlapping fire zones. Minimal gaps. They have arranged themselves to create mutual support at every point. A blockade? Tormek's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. With 300 ships against 12,000? This is madness, but something about it bothered him. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever done this. Most scattered their forces trying to defend multiple positions. Others gathered at their homeworld for a last stand. A few simply surrendered immediately. No one had ever positioned their entire fleet at the edge of their system and simply waited. A communication request came through. Tormek accepted it, expecting the usual pleas for mercy. Instead, a human female appeared on his screen. She wore a gray uniform with symbols Tormek did not recognize. Her face was calm. Her eyes were hard. I am Admiral Elena Chen of the United Human Space Force, she said. Her language was translated instantly by Calvary systems. You have entered Sol system without permission. Turn back. This is your only warning. The bridge fell silent. Several officers made sounds of disbelief. Tormek recovered quickly. I am High Exarch Tormek of the Calvary 7th Conquest Armada. You have 300 ships. I have 12,000. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive under Calvary rule. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Turn back, Chen repeated. You were warned. The communication ended. Tormek felt anger rising in his chest. They dare to threaten us? They dare to make demands? Show them what happens to species who forget their place. Probe force advance. 500 ships. Destroy their blockade. 500 Calvary warships broke formation and accelerated toward the human line. It was standard intimidation tactics. Overwhelming local superiority. The enemy would see the force approaching and realize resistance was futile. The human ships did not move. 500 Calvary vessels closed the distance. 1,000 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 200 kilometers, the humans still did not move, did not fire, did not respond to hails. They are frozen with fear, one officer suggested. Tormek was not so sure. Something felt wrong. At exactly 150 kilometers, every human ship fired at once. The coordination was perfect. Inhuman. 340 ships unleashed their weapons in a single synchronized moment. Missiles streaked across space. Energy beams carved through the void. Kinetic rounds traveled at relativistic speeds. The 500 Calvari ships had no time to react. They had been advancing in a standard probe formation, designed for intimidation rather than defense. The human weapons struck with surgical precision. Ships exploded. Hulls ruptured. Reactors went critical. Tormek watched in horror as 500 ships died in minutes. The human formation had barely shifted. Their weapons had fired with timing that should have been impossible to coordinate. "Status," he roared. "All 500 ships destroyed," the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "Battle duration, 11 minutes, 4 seconds. Human casualties, 0. Human ships damaged, 0. Silence filled the bridge. "How?" Tormek whispered. "How is this possible?" The tactical officer studied the data frantically. "Their coordination is perfect. Too perfect. There is no communication lag. Each ship seems to know exactly what every other ship is doing at every moment. It is as if they are one organism instead of 300 separate vessels." Tormek understood then. Artificial intelligence. The humans were using AI to coordinate their fleet in real time. Every ship was making split-second decisions, sharing data instantly, adjusting tactics without waiting for centralized command. It was elegant. It was efficient, and it was something the Calvari had never encountered before. "Send a message to command," Tormek ordered. This conquest may take longer than expected, but he would not retreat. Could not retreat. The Calvari Empire did not retreat, not from anyone, and certainly not from a species of primitives who had barely left their own star system. Over the next 3 days, Tormek sent probe force after probe force against the human blockade. Each time the humans responded with perfect coordination. Each time Calvary ships died in numbers that should have been impossible, the humans adapted. That was the worst part. No two battles were the same. The humans changed their tactics constantly, trying new approaches, testing different weapons combinations. It was as if they were learning from every engagement. On the 4th day something changed. Tormek's long-range sensors detected new signatures entering the system. More human ships. They appeared from seemingly nowhere, emerging from jump points that the Calvari sensors had not detected. "How many?" Tormek asked, dreading the answer. 60 new vessels, High Exarch. They are moving to reinforce the blockade." Tormek felt something he had not felt in decades. Not fear, exactly, but uncertainty, doubt. Where did they come from? He demanded, "Unknown." "We detected no shipyards, no construction facilities. They must have been hidden throughout the outer system." Humanity had been building in secret, while the galaxy watched. Thinking them weak and insignificant, the humans had been preparing. They had built shipyards in hidden locations. They had studied their potential enemies. They had planned for this exact moment. By the end of the first week, Tormek had lost 800 ships. The human blockade had grown to 400 vessels. And Earth remained untouched, protected behind that impossible wall of human determination. Tormek called a council of his senior officers. "We have never faced an enemy like this," he admitted, the words tasting bitter. "They do not fight like others. They do not break. They do not run. Every time we attack, they adapt. Every day, they grow stronger. Should we call for reinforcements?" One officer asked quietly. The question hung in the air like poison. Reinforcements. The Calvari had never needed reinforcements before. "No," Tormek decided. "We have 12,000 ships. They have 400. The mathematics favor us. We will change our tactics. No more probes. We will commit the full fleet. Overwhelming force at a single point. We will break through their line and proceed to their homeworld. Once Earth is under our guns, they will surrender." It was a logical plan. A good plan. But as Tormek gave the orders, he could not shake the feeling that the humans were expecting this. That somewhere on the other side of that blockade, Admiral Chen was smiling, because she wanted the Calvari fleet to commit fully. She wanted them to believe they could break through with numbers alone. She was counting on it. The trap was set. The Calvari just did not know they were already caught. 6 weeks had passed since the Calvari arrived at Sol System. 6 weeks of constant battle. 6 weeks of death. Tormek had expected 3 days. The human blockade had become something more than a defensive line. It had become a symbol. Behind it, Earth remained safe, untouched, protected by ships that should have been destroyed 1,000 times over. But the humans kept fighting. And worse, they kept growing. Status update, Tormek said tiredly. He had not slept properly in days. His dreams were filled with exploding ships and Admiral Chen's cold eyes. Human fleet strength now estimated at 900 vessels. His tactical officer reported, "They are bringing ships from hidden locations throughout the system. We have identified construction facilities in the asteroid belt, in orbit around the outer planets, even in the Oort cloud. 900 ships, where once there had been 340. Tormek had lost 4,000 ships. 4,000. The number was obscene, impossible, and still the blockade held. How are they building so quickly? Tormek demanded. Analysis suggests modular construction, High Exarch. They use destroyed ships, including our own, as raw materials. Their vessels repair themselves by consuming debris. It is unlike any technology we have encountered. Tormek wanted to scream. The humans were using Calvari ships to build more human ships. They were recycling the dead into weapons, but that was not the worst part. The worst part was the broadcasts. 3 weeks ago, the humans had begun transmitting something across all frequencies. Not military communications, not demands for surrender. Instead, they broadcast their history, thousands of years of it. Tormek had watched some of the broadcasts, trying to understand his enemy. What he saw disturbed him deeply. Humans had been fighting wars since before they invented writing. They had fought with stones, then bronze, then iron, then steel. They had developed weapons specifically to kill other humans. They had refined the art of war over millennia, perfecting it against the only enemy available: themselves. The Calvari had fought wars of conquest for 300 years. Humanity had been perfecting warfare for 10,000. One broadcast had particularly shaken Tormek. It showed something humans called World War II, a global conflict where over 70 million humans had died. Entire cities burned, weapons that could destroy landscapes. And at the end, something the humans called nuclear weapons that could erase entire populations. These were not weapons they used against aliens. These were weapons they had developed to use against each other. The broadcast ended with a simple message: "We have fought ourselves for longer than you have fought anyone. We know war. We understand war. Turn back while you still can." Calvari morale was crumbling. His soldiers had expected an easy conquest. Instead, they faced an enemy that treated warfare like art, like science, like religion. Every day brought new tactics, new strategies, new horrors. The humans never did the same thing twice. In one battle, they would fight conventionally, trading fire at range. The next day, they would launch thousands of small craft in swarming attacks. The day after, they would use gravity mines that crushed ships from within. Then cyber attacks that turned Calvary systems against themselves. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. And the humans thrived in it. Tormek called another council meeting. His officers looked exhausted, defeated. They had started this campaign with confidence. Now they looked haunted. Options, Tormek said simply. "We could request reinforcements," one officer suggested again. "No." Tormek's voice was firm. "That would be admitting defeat. The Empire does not admit defeat." "We could negotiate," another officer offered quietly. Several others hissed in shock. Negotiate with prey? But Tormek considered it. For the first time in his long military career, he considered retreat, compromise, survival. "Send a communication to Admiral Chen," Tormek ordered. "Propose a ceasefire. We will discuss terms." The message was sent. Hours passed. Then a reply came. Admiral Chen appeared on screen. She looked tired but resolute. Behind her, Tormek could see other humans working at their stations. Calm, professional, confident. "High Exarch," Chen said. "I received your request for negotiation." "Yes," Tormek replied. "This war has cost both our peoples greatly. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution." Chen was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You invaded our home," she said softly. "You came here expecting us to surrender or die. You have killed thousands of my people. And now that you are losing, you want to talk peace? We are not losing, Tormek said automatically. You have lost 4,000 ships? Chen replied. We have lost 600. You are trapped in our system, far from reinforcements. Your supply lines are stretched. Your soldiers are afraid. You are losing, High Exarch. You just have not admitted it yet. Tormek felt rage building. We still outnumber you. We can still break through your blockade. Then do it, Chen challenged. Stop talking and do it. Or turn around and go home. Those are your only options. The communication ended. Tormek sat in silence, his officers watching him carefully. They were waiting for orders, waiting for him to find a way out of this impossible situation. A junior officer, one who had been quiet throughout the meeting, spoke up hesitantly. Hi, Exarch, I must ask something. What if we are the ones who are trapped? Everyone turned to stare at him. What do you mean? Tormek asked carefully. We came here thinking we were the hunters, the young officer said. We thought we were hunting humans. But they were waiting for us. They had prepared for us. They are not defending their world. They are attacking us, using their own system as the battlefield. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Tormek realized the terrible truth. The blockade was not meant to keep the Calvari out. It was meant to keep them in, to hold them in place, to bleed them. The humans were not prey defending themselves. They were predators who had lured the Calvari into a trap, and somewhere behind that wall of ships, Admiral Chen was waiting for the perfect moment to spring it. All ships, Tormek ordered, his voice hollow. Prepare for full retreat. We leave this cursed system. But even as he gave the order, he wondered if the humans would let them go, or if it was already too late. Tormek gave the order to retreat. 8,000 Calvari ships began turning away from the human blockade, preparing to activate their FTL drives and escape Sol system. The FTL drives did not activate. Report, Tormek shouted as alarm klaxons began wailing across his flagship. FTL drives are non-responsive, High Exarch, his engineering officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. All ships reporting the same issue. We cannot jump to faster than light. What is causing this? Unknown. It is as if something is preventing the drives from creating the necessary space-time distortion. It is like we are trapped in normal space. Tormek felt ice forming in his chest. Trapped. They were trapped. A new set of sensor alerts began screaming. Multiple contacts. The tactical officer shouted. New human ships entering the system. Hundreds of them. They are coming from all directions. Tormek watched his display in growing horror. Human ships emerged from jump points all around the system. They had been waiting, hiding, and now they revealed themselves. The blockade had not been a defensive line. It had been bait. Total human fleet strength? Tormek asked quietly. 3,000 vessels, High Exarch, and more arriving every minute, 3,000. The humans had not shown even half their strength. They had let the cavalry think they were facing a small, desperate force. But humanity's true fleet had been gathering in secret, waiting for this exact moment. Admiral Chen's face appeared on every Calvari screen simultaneously. Every ship, every soldier. She was broadcasting to the entire Calvari fleet. High Exarch Tormek, Chen said. You tried to retreat? You cannot. We have activated gravity well generators throughout the system. Your FTL drives will not function while these devices are active. You cannot leave. You cannot call for reinforcements. You are here with us until this ends. She paused, letting the words sink in. You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. You are out of options. But I am going to give you something your empire never gave to the 847 civilizations you conquered. I am going to give you a choice. Tormek listened, unable to look away. Surrender. Chen continued. Order your ships to power down weapons and submit to boarding. Your crews will be treated as prisoners of war according to established conventions. No one else needs to die today. And if we refuse? Tormek asked. Then we finish what you started, Chen replied simply. We will destroy every single one of your ships, and then we will follow your empire back to every world you conquered. We will free them all, starting with you. Tormek cut the communication and looked at his officers. They stared back at him with expressions ranging from fear to resignation. We cannot surrender, one officer said. We are Calvari. We do not surrender. We have never surrendered, another agreed. In 300 years, no cavalry force has ever lowered their weapons to prey species. Tormek understood their pride. He felt it too. But he also understood something else. Something the Calvari Empire had never truly grasped. Pride could not stop missiles. Honor did not deflect energy weapons. And tradition meant nothing to the dead. Send a fleet-wide message, Tormek ordered. All ships are to make their own decisions. Any captain who wishes to surrender may do so without shame. Any captain who wishes to fight may do so with honor. I will not order brave soldiers to die for my pride. It was the hardest order he had ever given. For hours, nothing happened. The two fleets faced each other across the dark. Human ships held position, weapons ready but not firing. Cavalry ships remained in their formation, crews debating, arguing, deciding. Then one Calvari ship powered down its weapons, then another, then 10 more, then 100. 2,000 Calvari ships surrendered. Their crews activated distress beacons and waited for human boarding parties. They chose life over death, survival over glory. It was the first mass surrender in Calvari history, but 6,000 ships remained defiant. 6,000 captains who would rather die than submit to a species they had come to conquer. Tormek was one of them. All ships who remain, he broadcast. We will show these humans what Calvari courage looks like. We will show them that some things are worth dying for. Prepare for final assault. Target their command ship. If we can kill their admiral, perhaps we can break their will. It was a desperate plan, probably a futile plan, but it was all he had left. The 6,000 remaining Calvari ships charged forward in one massive wave. It was not subtle. It was not clever. It was pure desperation transformed into kinetic energy. The human fleet responded with cold precision. 3,000 ships against 6,000. But the humans were fresh, their ships undamaged. The Calvari were exhausted, their vessels battered from weeks of constant battle. The Battle of Sol's final hour lasted 17 minutes. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Human ships moved in coordinated patterns, creating kill zones that Calvari vessels could not escape. Missiles found their targets with perfect accuracy. Energy weapons carved through hulls like they were paper. The humans had studied Calvari ships for so long that they knew every weakness, every vulnerability. Tormek's flagship was one of the last to fall. He watched his fleet die around him, watched his people perish for pride and honor, and all the things the Empire had taught them were more important than life. In his final moments, he realized something. The humans had not wanted this. Chen had offered mercy, had offered life, and he had refused because surrender was unthinkable. Perhaps that was why the Calvari Empire would fall. Not because they were weak, but because they could not imagine being anything other than conquerors. The last missile struck his ship. Tormek felt the impact, felt the hull breach, felt the air rush out into space. His last thought was of the 847 civilizations the Calvari had conquered, and he wondered if any of them had felt this same regret. When the battle ended, 4,000 Calvari ships floated dead in space. 2,000 were captured intact, their crews now prisoners. The humans had lost 300 ships. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge looking at the carnage. There was no joy in her face, no triumph, only exhaustion and sadness. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Tell them the Calvari invasion has been defeated. Tell them Sol system is secure. And tell them that humanity is coming to help free the conquered worlds. Her communications officer nodded and began transmitting. Chen looked out at the stars, at the debris field that had once been the unstoppable Calvari Empire. We did not want this war, she said quietly to herself. But we finished it. Across the galaxy, news of the Calvari defeat spread like wildfire. The unbeatable empire had been stopped. The infinite tide had broken against humanity's wall, and every conquered civilization looked up at the stars with something they had not felt in centuries: hope. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, High Exarch Tormek sat in a cell that was far more comfortable than he deserved. The humans had recovered him from his damaged flagship. They had treated his injuries. They had given him a clean room, regular meals, and access to books and entertainment. His guards were polite. He was allowed exercise time. He even had a window that showed Earth rotating peacefully below. It was more mercy than the Calvari had ever shown their defeated enemies. A human psychologist visited him regularly. Her name was Dr. Sarah Williams, and she asked him questions about Calvary culture, history, and psychology. She was trying to understand why the Empire had become what it was, why conquest had seemed like the only path. You could have been traitors, Dr. Williams said during one session. You had the technology, the ships. You could have built an empire of commerce instead of war. Tormek had thought about this question many times in his captivity. When you are strong and others are weak, conquest seems natural, inevitable. We told ourselves we were bringing order to the galaxy, unity. We believed our own propaganda. And now? Dr. Williams asked. Now I see that we were the chaos, Tormek replied quietly. We were the disorder. We destroyed 847 civilizations and we called it peace. He paused, looking out at Earth. Your people could have destroyed us completely. After what we did, you had every right. But you chose differently. Why? Dr. Williams smiled sadly. Because we remember what it is like to be divided. We remember our own wars, our own genocides, our own mistakes. We decided long ago that we would never become the monsters we once fought, even when fighting monsters. Those words stayed with Tormek long after the session ended. Meanwhile, the galaxy was changing. The Galactic Council held an emergency session on Earth, the first time the Council had met on humanity's homeworld. Representatives from all 27 member species gathered in Geneva, joined by delegates from worlds recently freed from Calvary occupation. Admiral Chen stood before them, no longer in her military uniform but in formal diplomatic attire. Beside her stood representatives from Earth's various nations, united in their message to the stars. Members of the Galactic Council, Chen began, we stand at a crossroads. The Calvary Empire is broken. Their fleets are scattered. Their leadership is fractured. 847 worlds are suddenly free after centuries of occupation. What happens next will define the galaxy for generations to come. She gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing Calvary space and the freed territories. We have a choice. We can allow chaos to fill the void left by the Empire. We can watch as worlds fight among themselves, as new tyrants rise, as the cycle of violence continues. Chen paused, looking at each representative in turn. Or we can build something better, something new. We propose the creation of a peacekeeping force drawn from all willing species to help stabilize liberated worlds, not to conquer them, not to rule them, but to protect them while they find their own paths forward. Ambassador Quelan of the Fresh spoke up. And who would lead this peacekeeping force? Who would we trust with such power? No one species, Chen replied immediately. It must be a coalition. Humanity will contribute ships and resources, yes. But we insist on shared command, shared responsibility, shared accountability. You defeated the Calvary alone, Ambassador Vreen observed, her scales shifting to an impressed yellow. You could claim the right to lead by strength. Strength does not equal wisdom, Chen replied. And leadership by force is just another form of tyranny. We did not fight to replace one empire with another. We fought to ensure that no empire could threaten peaceful species again. The debate lasted for hours. Some species were grateful for humanity's offer. Others were suspicious, worried that humans were simply a new power-seeking dominance. Still others were simply afraid of change. But eventually a resolution passed. The Galactic Peacekeeping Initiative was established. Humanity would provide 30% of the force. The rest would come from volunteers among council species and newly liberated worlds. The most controversial part of the resolution came next. We are returning the captured Calvary ships, Chen announced, and the council chamber erupted in shocked protests. Returning them? Quillen demanded. They came to conquer. They killed millions. And you would give them their weapons back? Not weapons, Chen corrected. Ships. We are returning 6,000 vessels to the Calvary people with all weapon systems removed. They need transportation. They need cargo capacity. They need a way to rebuild. She held up a hand to forestall further protests, but there are conditions. The Calvary Empire must be dissolved. Power must be decentralized to individual worlds. They must participate in the Galactic Council as equal members, not as conquerors. They must pay reparations to the species they conquered, and they must accept peacekeeping monitors to ensure compliance. They will never agree, someone said. They already have, Chen replied. Most Calvary worlds are eager for change. 3 centuries of constant warfare exhausted them as much as it exhausted their victims. They want peace. They want to rebuild. We are giving them that chance. The resolution passed narrowly. Not everyone agreed with humanity's mercy, but enough did to make it reality. Over the following months, human ships joined with vessels from dozens of other species to form peacekeeping fleets. They deployed to former Calvari territories, helping maintain order during the transition. Some worlds welcomed them. Others resisted, suspicious of any outsiders. It was messy, complicated, frustrating, but it was better than war. In his cell on Earth, Tormek watched the news broadcasts showing the transformation. Former Calvary worlds holding democratic elections. Conquered species returning to their homeworlds. Mixed crews of humans and aliens working together to rebuild damaged infrastructure. One day, Dr. Williams brought him a surprising visitor. Admiral Chen walked into his cell, and Tormek stood reflexively, old military discipline asserting itself. High Exarch, Chen said. Or should I say former High Exarch? Tormek is sufficient, he replied. I no longer hold rank or authority, Chen nodded. I wanted to tell you personally. We are releasing you. Tormek stared at her in shock. Releasing me? But I led the invasion. I killed thousands of your people. Yes, Chen agreed. And you will stand trial for war crimes. But that trial will be held by a neutral Galactic Council court, not by humanity alone. Until then, you will be released to house arrest on a neutral world. You have been cooperative with our research. You have provided valuable insights into Calvari military structure that will help us prevent future conflicts, and most importantly, you have shown genuine remorse for your actions. She paused at the door. We are not keeping you prisoner because we want revenge, Tormek. We are not executing you because we want justice, not retribution. We are giving you a chance to help build a better future. Take it. After she left, Tormek sat alone for a long time thinking about the strange species called humanity. They fought like demons when threatened, but they forgave like saints when victorious. Perhaps that was their real strength. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, a ceremony was held at the former site of the human blockade. Ships from 40 different species gathered there, forming not a defensive line but a symbol of unity. The location was renamed Freedom Point. A massive monument was constructed, a sphere of metal salvaged from both human and Calvari ships. Inside the sphere, the names of every being who died in the battle were inscribed, regardless of species. Admiral Chen, now promoted to Grand Admiral and appointed as humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, gave a speech. We remember the dead, she said, human and Calvari alike. They died because of choices made by leaders, by empires, by systems that valued conquest over cooperation. We honor their memory by building something better. She gestured to the monument behind her. This place represents humanity's darkest moment and our finest hour. We were pushed to the edge of extinction. We fought back with everything we had. And when victory came, we chose mercy over vengeance. Chen looked at the assembled ships, at the delegations from species that had been enemies just a year before. That is the legacy of Sol. Not the battle, not the victory, but the choice we made afterward. The choice to build bridges instead of walls, to offer hands instead of fists, to remember that today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend. On one of the ships in attendance, a young Calvary engineer named Kresh worked alongside a human named James. They were calibrating the new jump gate system that would connect the inner and outer system more efficiently. Kresh was nervous. This was his first time working with humans. Everything he had been taught about them was wrong. They were not cruel, not monstrous. They were just people trying to do their jobs, trying to make the galaxy a little better. You okay? James asked, noticing Kresh's hesitation. Yes, Kresh replied. I was just thinking. Why did you not destroy us when you could? James smiled. Because we remember what it is like to be divided. We fought wars among ourselves for thousands of years. We know how hard it is to break cycles of violence. We figured someone had to start. Might as well be us, he offered Kresh a tool. Come on, let's get this gate working. We have got a lot of rebuilding to do. Kresh took the tool and together they continued their work.